Speaking truth to power. Welcome back. We've been in conversation with supporters of the Christian Professionals and Businesspersons Forum of India, LT Jayachandran and Anand Pillai, and been talking about a very real topic, a topic that touches each of our nerves. How do we behave when it comes to authority, or how do we submit to authority? Anand, what does the Bible say about submitting to authority?
The Bible is very clear. When it comes to subject to the authority or submitting to the authority, you have no choice. Romans chapter 13 says that. Paul and Timothy, he says that. Very clearly, submit to all authority, not some authority. Even if those authorities are doing something harmful for you in person. That's the blanket, it's very clear. However, we need to be cautious. If there is an authority that is in direct confrontation and contradiction to the written word of God or the written authority of the God of the Bible, then we have to obey the law of the Bible. Now I'll give you an example. Take the case of Daniel. Okay, if you look at Daniel in chapter 1, we see that he was taken as a management trainee for a 3-year management training program.
Okay.
Daniel along with his 4 companions. As a part of the training program, they were asked to study the Babylonian literature. In the process of getting into the program, their names was also changed into Babylonian names.
That's a very tough induction process.
Very tough induction process. You know, first thing is you'll have to change your names. Second one is you'll have to study the Babylonian literature. And these people, they were not of that kingdom.
That's right.
They were of another kingdom. They were aliens. They were exiles, in fact. They could have protested for all the 3 things. They could have protested for the name change.
Absolutely.
They could have protested for the studying of the Babylonian literature. And they could have protested about their exile. They did not do any of them. In fact, on the studying of the Babylonian literature, we find that God helped them. How do we see God help them? Daniel chapter 1 verse 17. It was very clearly said, God gave Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego ability to master the language and the literature of the time.
So they did extremely well.
They did extremely well with God's help on the Babylonian literature. And come appraisal time in Daniel chapter 1 verse 20, when they were appraised along with all the others,
They found better than other guys.
they were found to be better in the Babylonian literature which they were supposed to study according to Daniel chapter 1 verse 4. But having said that, they also A, violated and B, sought permission. Let us look at both of them. After some time, in the next chapter and onwards, we find that there is a law that is given that you must bow down to a human idol and you must not pray to your God. Now, these 2 things were direct contradiction to what they knew their God to. So, they chose to disobey, within quotes, the law of the land and suffer the consequences. This is a very important learning.
Okay.
And they said, whatever happens, happens. They did not say, listen, we would rather worship our God than you. They did not say that. They continued to worship God.
Okay.
They continued to pray to God. And because it was against the written law, Daniel's friends were thrown into fire. Daniel himself was later on thrown into the den of the lions. He did not have any protest. That's the first thing. But there was another situation in which he did not follow the law, written law.
Yes.
But he asked permission, and that is in the case of food.
Okay.
That is in Daniel chapter 1 verse 8. The management trainees were all given food from the king's table. Now the food from the king's table was offered to their gods. The food from the king's table was having a whole lot of meat, everything. And the food, that meat was very differently made.
Sure.
Daniel had clear written instructions in the Bible that he must not eat food offered to the idols. Second thing is he must not eat food that is unclean animals,
Okay.
because there were classification. And the third one is he should not eat food or the meat with blood in it, because they were not sacrificed. And none of these things were followed in the food that was given. So he knew that he had a choice of either obeying God or obeying the king. But here is his thing. He said, wait a minute, I know the spirit in which this law is given. The spirit in which this law is given is not for me to defile myself.
Okay.
The spirit in which this law is given is so that we may be healthy. So Daniel did not address the letter of the law. he addressed the spirit of the law. So he asked the chief official, can you give us permission to eat vegetables and drink water? And I know the objective of us eating whatever you're asking us to eat, to be found healthy. If for whatever reason
I'm not found healthy,
I am not found healthy than all the others, because we are management trainees, we are fit to qualify or qualified to serve the king. If that is not met, then you decide. You treat us in accordance with what you see. So here is a very interesting situation. A, he chose to obey God rather than man when it was a direct confrontation. B, when there was no confrontation, when there was no contradiction about name change, about the studying of the Babylonian literature, and about you being in exile, no problem at all. In fact, perfect silence. And in the other case where there is an option, Daniel went not by the letter of the law, he went by the spirit of the law. I feel that we all need to understand the spirit in which all the laws are given and go there and ask permission. It's not your duty to go and interpret it and do what you want. Ask the authority. So what Daniel did was he asked the authority, and when the authority gave them a 10-day period, and if you actually look at it, it is less than 1% of the training period. The training period was over 1,000 days. How do you know that? It was a 3-year management training program. Over 1,000 days. Just 10 days he asked for permission, and then he ate.
He won their confidence.
He won their confidence, and therefore he continued to obey.
You know, Anand, what this takes us to a whole new level of manifesting our faith. Because when you look at these examples that you're giving me, unless it is written in the Word of God, it didn't really matter to Daniel and his friends. That's so fabulous.
No, it was written. In the case of this food, it was written.
Yes, yeah. So unless all it was written, that's
but
right.
What is, are they asking you to do it for these reasons, or is there anything behind it? So when they went to see that the health was behind, fitness was behind, they said, okay, no problem.
No problem.
Let us do that. But they asked permission.
Okay.
In fact, what Anand has just said tallies with the New Testament metaphors.
Okay.
When Jesus says that we are the salt and we are the light, salt influences by dissolving, identifying with the food in which it is kept.
Not by
That's
staying.
exactly what Daniel and his friends said.
Okay.
But light stands outside of darkness, challenges darkness.
No.
So
two
that is a
different paradigms.
paradoxical combination. Outwardly identified, inwardly separate. The Christian community's problem, we are outwardly separate, inwardly totally compromised. We should be salt when we should be light, and we are light when we should be salt.
Absolutely.
And that is a total confusion.
That's total darkness.
Which is
and
why
lack of
when we speak, we lack that credibility. And I think that is exactly what we need to see.
Wow. That's a very powerful thing that we've heard today. You know, the one thing that I would do, sitting in a place that you are, watching this program, is to take a resolution to pray. Lord, you call me to be the salt of the earth when I should be the salt. You call me to be the light when I should be the light. Give me the strength and the grace to be, would be my prayer till we meet again in the next episode. I'm sure that you're enjoying watching these as much as we are enjoying presenting it to you. Thank you and see you soon.